Kevin Hart is reportedly furious and scrambling to leave the country after federal investigators connected him to tapes tied to Diddy.
There are other big names that will come out in relation to these charges. He says the day will come, you said this, when you start naming names. When will that day be, and how big are these names that we're talking about?
People are very interested in that, of course. That comment has been repeated back to me, as you might imagine, many times. People are, waiting with bated breath, hoping that, I'm going to name these big celebrity names. But I can tell you this, I look at it in this context. If you attended one of these events, and we're talking about, we've heard about the white party and the freak-offs and the after parties, but there's also, impromptu parties at studios, after parties from concerts, album release parties, hotel parties. I mean, the list goes on and on. But in my view, if you attended those and you saw or knew that somebody was being given drugs, that their drinks were being drugged, and you sat by and either participated in some of this activity or encouraged this activity or allowed it to go on and helped cover it up, or were in the room while it was happening and said nothing and did not intervene, and perhaps attended more of these parties knowing that this type of conduct was going to occur, it's my view. That may not be the criminal justice system's view, but it's certainly my view.
Kevin Hart is quickly cutting ties with Diddy after the rapper's recent sex trafficking arrest. Old footage from Diddy's infamous parties is re-emerging, including a 2010 event Hart hosted at NYC's London hotel packed with bikini-clad guests and stars. While Hart and other attendees aren't accused of wrongdoing, attorney Tony Busby, representing over 120 victims, hints that more names connected to Diddy could soon be dragged into the scandal.
We're here, Dirty Money, album release party, last train to Paris, it's crazy. I decided to switch scenes, got too hectic down there. I'm up here in a hot tub, doing it official, you know what I'm saying? My Trey's up here, Fab's up here, when you have a scene like this, you gotta bring balls to it.
In a separate viral TikTok clip, Kevin Hart appears in a bathtub holding a microphone, with one bikini-clad woman beside him and another lounging behind him in the water.
A Diddy and another male? They say the other male is an A-list celebrity.
I would wonder if he's white or black. And if I'm looking at any black guys that are A-listers that's bigger than Diddy, there's only one that I could come up with. And there's a few I could come up with. Will Smith, he's bigger than Diddy. I would think Nick Cannon is bigger than Diddy. Who else on the black that are black actors or black in the business that's an A-lister that's bigger than Diddy, that's black? That's hard to think. But then if you got the A-listers, you got to realize he ran with that black, that Rat Pack, and I don't even say their names because they said I got their names wrong last time. What's his name? Kushner? What's the other guy? Leonardo? Yeah, his name. Man, I don't keep up with these cats, but I heard that that's not only the tape that's being shot. There's some other tapes out there, other people too with him, and him doing some things with some other people. So there's quite a few tapes that might be out there, what they're hearing, and I don't want to see the tapes, but I want to know if they really true. Because if they got some tapes out there and it's with some underage, whether it's celebrities or not, it's gonna be crazy, bro. It's gonna be real crazy. And they're gonna have to bring that to forefront because the prosecutor's gonna want those tapes. And they're gonna do whatever they have to do legally to get those tapes. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So we just better hope for his sake, that's just a bunch of bull crap. But then there's lawyers out there saying, yeah, the tape does exist. Lawyers got on television to say the tapes exist. I don't really know or trust that, because they was trying to say he had a tape with one of the bodyguards and this lady that came out. So we don't know what to think until we actually see that, and we get that version. You remember we had that bootleg version of R. Kelly tape?
Yeah, I remember that.
They don't even bootleg. Yo, they don't even bootleg no more, man. So it's gonna be hard to figure it out if it does exist.
Do you believe the guy in the tape is white?
If he's bigger than Diddy and he's not none of the names that I said, probably so. But then they say he was young too.
Yeah, they say he was young.
Let me get his name right. I hope it ain't the Bieber. I hope it's not the Bieber.
That's a good one. It might be you. But if they saying that the guy is young and he's an A-lister, I can't think of that many black people then.
Right, not at all. And somebody that more powerful, more of a celebrity than Diddy. You understand what I'm saying? If they were saying somebody that was more celebrity than Diddy, he was an A-lister, he was younger. You know what I'm saying? And if he's not black, it would have to be the Bieber. That's his name, Bieber? They said I got that wrong too. Justin Bieber, allegedly. I don't know, bro. But this is the world that we live in now, man. That these individuals thinks it's all right. Bruh, when does it comes all right to be sitting there eating food off a naked woman? When did we start doing what they do? Let's keep it a buck. When did we start doing what they do? These guys is popping pills. We got Jay-Z dancing with a chick that's into capitalism.
In the same clip, Kevin Hart is later seen standing beside Diddy, who casually sips a drink as Hart launches into a heated rant. Hart's presence at the party points to his past ties with Diddy, but he's not alone. The growing scandal hints that other big names like Will Smith, Justin Bieber, and Usher might also appear on FBI-seized tapes.
And what is the split of male and female alleged victims?
It's about 25 out of the 120, but as you might imagine, since we did the press conference, that number is growing.
Sorry, 25 minors or?
25 minors out
Wow.
of the 120 clients, yes, sir. The minors, they kind of fall into two categories. One would be the category of individuals with stars in their eyes trying to break into the entertainment industry, who were either scouted or somehow found their way to a studio or to a location where they were being screened, and either the allegation is Mr. Combs himself or those around him involved took advantage of these people in some sort of quid pro quo to try to make them a star. And, in some of these cases, it was the parents who were essentially handing their child off to a group of people that they trusted and who they thought were going to make their child a star. That's one group. The second group of minors would be individuals who were recruited, whether it be in a hotel lobby, whether it be at a show from the crowd, invited to a after concert party that made its way to a hotel, whether it be to some of the parties that we all heard about. They went there at age 16. There's a few that, for instance, attended a party in the Hamptons and they were only 16 and taken advantage of there. So it really runs the gamut. But it's the allegations obviously are very egregious. We have to be very careful and responsible about how we pursue these. These are individual cases, will be filed. Each case will live or die on its own merits. Each case will have one or more defendants. In some cases, they'll all.
Attorney Tony Busby warns that more powerful figures will be exposed as Diddy's scandal unravels, with hidden secrets surfacing fast. As the chaos drags on, Diddy's reputation keeps crumbling, and Busby is already hidden with 6 lawsuits.
Of allegations are very hurtful to people if they're not true, and very hurtful, frankly, if they are true. But if they're true, you shouldn't have been in the room and you shouldn't have been participating. So I anticipate that we're going to start filing lawsuits, and it may not be big names at first, but we have a long list of names, and you might imagine in situations like this that when a victim tells us that this person was in the room or this person participated, we want to do as much due diligence as humanly possible before we file that case, because in the United States, in almost every state, public filings are in fact public. And, when you name somebody in a lawsuit, the press is going to pick it up, and we're aware of that. So we're going to make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's. And I expect that there will be some people named in these lawsuits that will raise some eyebrows.
Right. I mean, how big an eyebrow raise are we talking about? Because you've been hearing a lot of names, presumably, in the process of all these calls coming in. And you're a pretty smart lawyer, so you can probably work out the wheat from the chaff in terms of legitimate, plausible claims here in terms of victims. I mean, are we talking about names as big as Diddy, potentially?
I expect so. I expect so. Obviously those are the names that people are interested in, but I've tried to make sure people focus also on corporate entities, to include banks and hotels and perhaps even pharmaceutical entities that were maybe not directly involved, but were certainly benefiting and profiting from this kind of activity. Those I'm interested in as well. But we've seen all over social media the pictures and video of all the various individuals that attended these.
The wall of silence has now been broken, and victims are coming forward. Our team has had at this point more than 3,285 individuals contact us, with people claiming to have been victimized by Sean Combs. After vetting, we now represent 120 individuals who intend to bring civil claims in civil court against Sean Diddy Combs, as well as claims against many other individuals and entities that we will name as defendants as we file these individual cases.
The latest filings span nearly 3 decades, from 1995 to 2021, and detail different accounts of horrific sexual assault. In 95, a woman says she attended a party for Notorious B.I.G.'s music video, One More Chance. It was there she claims Combs raped her in a bathroom. The woman said Combs brought her into the bathroom to talk privately and then began kissing her unexpectedly. She says she tried to pull away and he allegedly slammed her head into the wall, which caused her to fall to the floor. When she was on the floor, the producer allegedly hit her again, lifted her dress, and raped her. After, Combs allegedly threatened her by saying, "You better not tell anyone about this or you'll disappear." A John Doe says he was just 16 years old when the mogul fondled him at one of his white parties in 1998. The male plaintiff alleges Combs told him he had the look of a star and then ordered him to drop his pants. He claims Combs explained to him that it was a rite of passage to becoming a music star and allegedly asked him, "Don't you want to break into the business?" The then teen says he complied out of fear, anxiety, and the power imbalance he felt with Combs, and later realized what he says happened was sexual assault.
This isn't just a wild claim from Jaguar. Several high-profile figures like Suge Knight and Dame Dash have previously spoken about Jay's involvement.
Invited her and a friend there for a party. Combs allegedly gave them drinks and told them to snort cocaine. The woman, who was a freshman in college, says Combs forced her friend to perform oral sex on him and threatened to kill them if they didn't comply. In 2006, another John Doe, who was a security guard at the now infamous white parties, claims he was sexually assaulted by Combs. The man says he began to feel extremely ill at the party after drinking 2 drinks with alcohol that were provided by Combs. The accuser says he was disoriented and alleges the Bad Boy Records founder forcibly pushed him into an open van, held him down, and sexually assaulted him. In 2008, another man claims he was sexually assaulted by Combs in a New York Macy's. This John Doe says he was an advisor at Echo Clothing, a competitor of the mogul Sean John clothing line. He claims he was in a stockroom at Macy's in Manhattan when Combs and 3 bodyguards entered. Doe alleges he was turning a corner in the stockroom when he was hit around the base of the neck, possibly with a pistol. He says this forced him to his hands and knees, and he saw that each of Diddy's bodyguards had guns in their waistbands. The man alleges he heard multiple voices saying things like, "I'll kill you." Combs allegedly approached the man and forcefully, brutally, and orally raped him for at least 2 minutes. According to the suit, after Combs was finished, he threw Doe's head aside and said words to the effect of, "Shut up or I'll kill you." And in 2021, another man claims he was drugged and assaulted by Combs and multiple other unnamed men at a party. This John Doe says he became disoriented after a drink at a New York party. He claims he was trying to leave when he heard another man say, "Hold on," and promise to help him. Doe says he remembers being in a bedroom, unable to speak, move, or fight back. He says multiple men began sexually assaulting him through sodomy and other forced acts.
Why now? Why?
Because he's the acceptable monster at this time, like R. Kelly was the last time I sat on this couch.
So who's next?
Y'all don't see the lineup?
Yeah, we see the lineup. I'm just waiting to see who's next.
Jay-Z is setting Diddy up. Why is everyone having such a hard time? He ain't doing shit different. He lined up D. Haven, stole his life and identity. He lined up Big L, stole his life and identity. He lined up Dame Dash, stole his life, identity, and fucking took his love. Lined up R. Kelly. He wants to be the one. Sean Carter is responsible for enacting Hype Williams to put Aaliyah on a faulty plane to move her out the way as punishment for rejecting him, and so he could level up Beyonce, who was struggling. Let's just say allegedly that happened. Now I want you to think about 106th and Park with Mary J. Blige. Free, who is a victim of Sean Carter.
Yeah.
Mary J. Blige, who is a victim of Sean Combs, are sitting there talking about the death of Aaliyah amongst each other. Think about that. You got a Diddy victim, you got a Jay-Z victim, and you got a superstar gone. They know what happened.
So, Jack, when you say...
When I say Corey, I'm talking about Kathy White.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
Jay-Z's pregnant mistress, who died of an imaginary aneurysm, just like the woman who was best friends with Kim and Kimura, who wrote the book Bling and died as soon as it made the bestsellers list.
This isn't just wild talk from Jaguar. Major figures like Suge Knight and Dame Dash have also publicly called out Jay's involvement before.
Hey, look at it like this. I look at real plain and simple. Ain't no whistleblower. Facts is there. But right now, I don't care if it's P.I., I don't care if it's Rick Ross, I don't care if it's Jay, I don't care if it's Snoop, I don't care if it's Game, I don't care if it's Dre. Nobody's stepping up.
To New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp.
Yeah, that's what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
in the 90s. Do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I mean, but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle,
right?
And I saw it, and it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
So nobody tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand it.
Biggie Smalls was there.
Biggie Smalls was there. Lil' Kim, Craig Mack.
All these people are hanging around.
Yeah, man. Faith Evans.
And your parents
Jodeci,
were
Mary J.
okay?
Blige, they ain't know nothing about this shit.
Oh.
I was having a good time, you know what I mean?
Does he have you doing any chores? Are you doing dishes at all? I mean, to keep you humble somewhat? Or are you just like, can you stay up till 4 a.m. with them and party?
I mean, I could. I actually stayed up longer than them.
And what kind, do you have money? What's going on?
I mean, I had like per diem. You know, I had like, you know,
What
like
a
a living.
life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy camp?
A former attendee recalls moving to NYC as a teen and living with Diddy Combs through a program called Flavor Camp, describing his home as a constant party scene surrounded by legends like Biggie Smalls, Lil' Kim, and Mary J. Blige. Photos from Diddy's events, including a 2004 shot of Aaliyah with Jennifer Lopez, add to the buzz. Damon Dash clarified he only attended one party with Aaliyah in the Hamptons, though some still allege Diddy and Jay-Z had ties to Aaliyah's tragic death.
R. Kelly for years, and Jay-Z continued to make albums with R. Kelly after all the information came out with him and Aaliyah. And I'd say this is because Jay-Z was pretty comfortable with the fact that he knew he also wanted Aaliyah, and honestly, so did Diddy. And Aaliyah's death has never sat right with me. There are so many sketchy things around her death that just don't make sense. The fact that Aaliyah was given a substance and knocked unconscious and then was carried onto this plane that she didn't want to get on because she thought that something was wrong with it that led to her death is just crazy. There's also even more disturbing information about Aaliyah's pilot of that plane, and they said that he had just joined the program 2 days prior before the flight, and he wasn't even supposed to be the pilot on that flight.
Aaliyah was sitting in a taxi as her team and the flight crew argued nearby about whether or not to take off, and she complained of having a headache. Now, reportedly, a baggage handler nearby said that someone from her entourage gave her a pill. She took the pill, and that right after she fell into a very deep sleep. So deep, in fact, that she was carried onto the airplane still asleep and may not have even been aware that she was on the airplane. Now, we should say we don't know what that pill was. It could have been aspirin. Maybe she was just very tired from a long video shoot. And the baggage handler did say that she took it willingly. But it does reveal some new information about those final moments.
After the crash, investigators determined the small plane was carrying about 700 pounds over its limit. And this is important. The center of gravity was too far back in the aircraft.
The pilot did not want to make this trip, and he reportedly argued with Aaliyah's team because he thought that it was unsafe. So he did make those calculations, and he did decide that it was unsafe. However, after protracted negotiation, they went through with that.
Man, you good?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, young brother, everything's good? Selling out arenas and everything? Starting to act different, huh? You ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out.
Well, I mean, you try to get in contact with me, through all my, partners and whatnot. But you never really got my number, so.
Right. Okay.
My number?
Yeah.
Tell you my number.
Yeah.
Though reportedly upset over the charges against Diddy, Justin Bieber has been spotted with him at multiple events, including a 2014 SRO party and Bieber's 22nd birthday in 2016. Meanwhile, Diddy faces fresh trouble as Ashley Perryman sues him, claiming he retaliated after she hinted at his ties to Tupac Shakur's 1996 death.
Yeah, it's like exactly.
I'm digging it, Robert.
Yeah. No, I mean, to a lot of us, he's like a little brother. You know what I'm saying? He's not afraid to call and ask for advice. He's somebody that, in the industry-wise, the record industry is a strong family, and he's somebody that, we definitely have our arms around, and we want to protect him because he's such genuinely a nice person. Besides his talent, you know what I'm saying? He's one of the greatest kids that you could ever know.
Justin, Diddy bought his son a Bentley. Maybe, he could buy you one also while you're out.
Got me a Lamborghini.
Oh, well, that's nice.
I haven't gotten it yet, though.
Yeah, I know. When is that coming, that Lamborghini? We talked about this last time.
He had the Lamborghini for a day or two, and he had access to the house, and he knows better than to be talking about the things that he does with Big Brother Puff on national television.
Apparently not.
Something, everything.
Talking about the potential involvement of Diddy, or Puff Daddy as he was at the time, in that shooting, that first shooting. Let's take a look.
I think Puffy was involved in the shooting.
Only they can answer that question. I have my own opinion, but I wouldn't slander their name like they did mine. I wouldn't say things that I knew, you know what I mean? I believe so. I do believe so. I have proved things that I could say that will back up my claim But this is not for the world to know about. You know what I mean? It's between me and him, and only he knows.
When you watched that, do you think he was basically saying he did think that Diddy was involved but didn't want to say so publicly?
Pac had suspicions of what had happened. But you know the saying, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And we've been, stuck in that position for quite some time, trying to get to a place where we can prove what actually happened.
But is your belief now that Diddy may have been involved in that first shooting?
I don't know, Pierce. I don't know. Thus the investigation. None of us know. This is the best way for us to get some answers, to have an actual investigation into his murder, regardless of who was responsible or the who's that were responsible. And each incident involved multiple people, planning, coordination, and we just been trying to get to the bottom of it for a long time.
Why do you think there is so much suspicion around Diddy's involvement in Tupac's killing?
Because of the relationship, our relationship in the early days, how the relationship soured, the climate of the hip hop world at the time, the so-called East Coast, West Coast beef. There's a whole lot of reasons. And, us, my brother and I, our movement, we were at the top of the game, and they were right behind us. So, heavy is the head that wears the crown. People always are after the person that's on top. So there's a lot of reasons to have these theories and suspicions, and they just need to be vetted and fully vetted and figure out what's what. My family is still suffering fallout from the assassination of my brother's murder. Which nobody really cares about us. Me, my sister, my brothers, our family, we still suffer. So, the struggle continues on finding out the truth.
Where were you when you heard that your brother had been killed, and how did you find out?
I had found out he got shot. I was at my house in California, in Palmdale. I got a call from my homie Big Psych, and he told me what had happened, and then I drove out to Vegas within hours.
You know, and I know, that everyone believes that Diddy was involved in both these shootings. That is what the streets have said for 27 years.
We all were familiar with all the rumors and stuff.
After confronting Diddy over FaceTime, she says he threatened her, and soon after, one of his associates allegedly lured her under false pretenses in March 2018, leading to an assault.